my mother is in the hospital and has been in the hospital since Saturday. And there's a woman in the bed next to my mother. And the woman said, I heard how your daughter was talking to you. She said, what is she fellowship? And my mother began to tell her who my pastors were. And she says, I know them. Pastor Willis, I raised him. He was one of my youth students she's a youth pastor. And she said he was in her ministry from the age of 15. It's just, we're in a small world. And God strategically places each and every one of us in a place for his purpose. And so my mother and her begin to talk. And then yesterday when I went to go visit her, she says to me, she says, excuse me. She says, I was telling your mother that I know your pastor. How is he doing? I've often thought on him. And she said, how is he and his wife? I said, I'll do you one better. I dialed them on the phone. I let her talk to him. They had a wonderful conversation. They talked. He said, no, don't you leave out of there without getting her name, her number, and her address. And I said, okay, Pastor. I gave her the pen paper. She writes it down. She gets up. She gets dressed. And she goes and sits in the chair because they have discharged her. She signed her paperwork. She's done everything that she's supposed to do. They taken the IV out. She came in the day before for a heart monitor. Wait a minute, no. You know, when they do the heart transplant where they put the little defibrillator in them? My mother had it done a year ago. She had the same surgery on Monday. Well, she goes to sit in the chair and we're talking about Bible study because I'm telling her I teach a Bible study on Tuesday nights with the young girls. My daughter's friends, they want Bible study, but they don't want to go to church. We want to know about God, but we don't want all of that other stuff that they do. They do too much, as the kids say. They do too much. So I have Bible study with them. Me and the woman were talking. Next thing I know, she's quiet. I look over, my mother has now fallen asleep. I look over, I'm thinking she's asleep. Well, turn again, the nurse comes in to do her vitals so she could go home. She leaving here. Drool running down her face. Whatever they did, we don't know. But all we know is they came in 30 strong in a room. They pick her up. They put her on the bed. They palpitate. They doing everything they can to bring her back. When I tell you we here for a blinking moment, I begin to pray. Of course, I don't know nothing else to do. I went in. And they're some of the nurses looking at me. Yeah, y'all keep doing what y'all doing. I'm going to do what I know to do. Because this is a woman of God. She had just preached in the pulpit on Sunday. Monday, she had to have this heart thing done. When I tell you, when she woke up, and they finally got her back, and they did all the assessment trying to make sure she hadn't had a stroke. She hadn't had a heart attack. It was all these things they were ruling out. Well, she speaks different languages. And for each person that was in the room, there was a different type of person, and she spoke their language and looked at it, and they looked at her, and then this can't be. How is this possible? She just was leaving. She just was gone. But when I tell you the grace of God, we have to ever be so ready. We cannot shrink back. I said, I don't care what they think of me. What do I care about them? I care about the soul. And when she woke up, and when everybody left and everything calmed down, I said, you gave them a scare. I said, but I thank God. I said, because what you also gave them is a reality check. What you also gave them is a miracle that just took place in their presence. What you also gave them, for those that were lacking faith, you gave them more faith. I said, but she said, we were just talking. I said, ma'am, we were. She remembered the whole conversation up until the part that she stopped speaking. I said, God, I thank you. Because what would that have looked like? That her die on my watch, and I'm sitting right there, and I've not done what I needed to do. My mother began to pray. We both just began to go in and ask God for mercy. And I thank the Lord. And that's who we have to be. We want to show up like that for people. So we don't just get on this talk. We don't get on wild talk just to be, that's just checking off something else to do on our list every day. We go in because we have to do battle. We have to go in and snatch the souls from the pit of hell so that they don't die and go to a godless grave. That is our assignment. When we sit on these calls, we are to not just to sit at the table and get full, but we are to regurgitate it and give it back out. Everything that goes in, we give it back out. So I realized that I'm a warring evangelist. I found my T-shirt, my sweatshirt that says "Fight." Join our fight. Our fight is we win. We win souls. They might have been talking about breast cancer. Okay, that's good and all. But right now, we're fighting for our children. We're fighting for our children's children. We're fighting for those that cannot fight for themselves in this season. Amen. Amen.